So recently we had the announcement for Mortal Kombat 1 happen where I was crying happy tears because MK was back and my inner child was jumping up and down. I was optimistic with everything that was shown so far, and I, along with many others, are excited to watch it slowly be revealed all the way up till its September 19th release. However, one of the recent revelations about MK1 has some eyebrows being raised, being the entire DLC roster getting leaked by retailers, and the names are certainly interesting. I'll briefly touch on who is involved and then discuss what's been going on with the leaks and what the new cameo fighter system means for Mortal Kombat. Before we start, hi, I'm Zak Not Kyle, or Zak for short, and I talk about video games as they pertain to creative writing and popular culture. I'm currently studying for my BFA and MFA in creative writing, and I'd love if you stuck around for some funny, goofy content. Subscribe with the silly red button, like this video, and comment your thoughts on the situation below, and without any further ado, let's get into this mess. With the release of Mortal Kombat 1 for pre-order, we had a lot of things come out of the woodwork about the upcoming fighting game that haven't been given to us by the devs. One of the things being the mysterious cameo fighter roster. Cameo fighters is a concept that is only able to be speculated on for now, but if this is what I think it is, this is fan-fucking-tastic. However, with the DLC leaks that have been circulating, I'm very nervous right now. Cameo fighters are a gameplay function that seem to work as a form of assisting the existing roster of fighters to help with your fights. Again, most of the gameplay can only be speculated on for now. Something to note is that the roster of characters that will be in the cameo fighter roster are not going to be on the main roster. This will be important later. This is why the leaks coming out from official release websites about the combat pack for MK11 has me insanely worried. I want to start by talking about the cameo fighter twist for the next Mortal Kombat installment, and then I'll get into all the individual DLC leaks and why I'm not too sure how good this will be. To start, let's talk about what this system could mean for the game's future and why I think it was implemented. To contextualize this, we need to discuss the 3D era of Mortal Kombat. I'll be discussing the games from Mortal Kombat 4 until Mortal Kombat Armageddon specifically. There are a select group of characters known as the 3D era combatants. These characters are Fujin, Quan Chi, Serena, Shinnok, Jarek, Kai, Meat, Raiko, Tanya, Tremor, Blaze, Bro Raicho, Draman, Frost, Su Hao, Kenshi, Li Mei, Mavado, Mocap, Maluk, Natara, Ashra, Dairu, Darius, Havoc, Hataru, Kira, Cobra, Onaga, Shujinko, Dagon, and Taven. You might be saying, hey Zach, that's a lot of names. Why does this matter for so much of Mortal Kombat's roster? Here's the reason. Most of the 3D era characters have not returned to more than one game since Mortal Kombat Armageddon. The only exceptions would be Quan Chi and Kenshi, who appeared in Mortal Kombat 9 and Mortal Kombat 10. Both were exempt from MK11 though, and we'll talk about Quan Chi later. And while we're on the topic of more modern Mortal Kombat games, Mortal Kombat X had a crap ton of new characters, being Cassie Cage, Devora, Aaron Black, Ferrator, Jackie Briggs, Kotal Khan, Takeda, and Triborg. Not all of them would come back in the following game, and other characters like Melina and Rain initially did not end up in the Mortal Kombat 11 base roster, thus leaving a massive harassment campaign in the wake of their absence. Yes, I am implying Melina fans caused this. Ed Boon, I'm gonna clip this on Twitter and send this and ask, is this true? When it comes to a game series like Mortal Kombat, where many characters could get in the roster, but only a few of them do, you end up with a lot of angry people. This is why the Combat Pack 2 for MK11 ended up the way it did, with Rain and Melina being somewhat boring and devoid of life in their executions, while they were stupid fun. And Cyrax and Sector got sidelined for the sake of the dev team's Twitters not risking implosion. With so many characters and not enough roster spots, NetherRealm was put in an interesting spot, and it seems that having cameo fighters might be the solution to the problem, so they have less fans mad at them and test the waters for future installments with so many characters that they're unsure of. Going into Mortal Kombat 1, I think it could be interesting to see if this system will actually work or not, but I'm leaning towards it working, if the system works how I think it will. But we'll get to my issues with it. I think it'll do 3 different things for the future of Mortal Kombat. The first is to possibly figure out what characters would work best for the newer audience that Mortal Kombat has picked up. We don't know what a modern day take on characters like Natara, Darius, Ashra, or Havoc could look like, or how it would go over with a new audience of MK who didn't play the 3D era games at or around their launch. If someone like Natara is actually well received, then NetherRealm can look at that reception and decide to put her in the next game. But they don't have to risk a full roster spot in order to figure that out. The next thing is that it could make the controversies around guest characters less of a problem. And don't worry, we're gonna get to why I think this was executed poorly if these leaks are actually true. I personally hate guest characters in fighting games like a lot. However, this format would would be a great way to incorporate guests into the game. Having guests be off of the main roster and instead be cameos frees up space in the DLC for other characters who are well liked to take center stage. And once again, we're going to be coming back to this because, oh man, the opposite happened. Lastly, I think this could fix the problems with variations that have been occurring as of late. In MKX and MK11, there have been multiple movesets and variations for every character that could be used. It seems all well and good, and it kind of is, except for the fact that designing a lot of these variations often takes away from designing characters people actually want in the games. It was better in MK11 by far by allowing you to customize things, while MKX got a lot of heat for doing this. They also downgraded the amount of variations, and since we only get 2 now, you'll be able to customize things even more and find new ways to play without requiring these characters to also have variations attached to them. Unless they do, then that's like a little weird, but like not entirely off the table. All of this sounds well and good as a concept. Here's where I got concerned, being the actual roster reveal. Recently, Amazon has put up their pre-orders for the game, and Mortal Kombat fans found out who's in the DLC for the first Kombat pack, and some eyebrows are certainly being raised. The problem is that guest characters are ending up as main cast members in the DLC, while major players in Mortal Kombat's history are ending up as cameo fighters. And yes, I am specifically talking about Johnny Cage because this one was absolutely bonkers. I don't even think this would be that awful if it weren't for the fact that 50% of the DLC is guest characters and Johnny Cage ended up as a cameo fighter somehow. I personally think guest characters should be relegated to cameo fighter slots instead of having characters like Johnny fucking Cage be sidelined in their place. That is insane. Talking about the Kombat Pack's revealed roster though, whoever picked the MK characters has impeccable taste. First is Quan Chi, which he absolutely is such a girl boss. Then Ermac, who is just a badass in every sense. And then Takeda, an extremely underrated MKX pick. I'm so excited. The guests I never have liked. Homelander is like fine, I guess. Like, it's not the worst choice, but like still, why main roster? I don't think Peacemaker should be here at all when other DC characters exist. Like, if we got Harley Quinn in a Mortal Kombat game, that would be so perfect, especially right after Joker happened last game. But there's one guest character I'm hyped for, being Omni-Man. Omni-Man is brilliant fucking casting. I can't even like deny that. As much as I hate guest characters, this is the one time I'm willing to make that exception because oh my god, this is such good casting. Honestly, a good way to solve this would to just make Omni-Man the only one on the main roster and then have 2 of the 5 cameo fighters just be Homelander and Peacemaker instead. It would have been a good way to put some of the cameo fighters in the spotlight, especially ones that actually do have a lot of likability. The cameo fighters for the first round of DLC are going to be Johnny Cage, Tremor, Mavado, Chameleon, and Farah. Again, Johnny Cage and Tremor should have just been main DLC. I do not know why we have 3 guest characters in a 6-character pack. Moving on. This is very interesting to see, and I think that they're all great choices for cameo roster, minus Johnny for obvious reasons, and I would argue Tremor as well, just because Tremor was insanely well liked in MKX, and I think it would have been cool to see him in another game. Chameleon isn't a figure we've really known much about, and a modern day Chameleon would be an interesting thing to see as far as how she's developed as a character, which proves my point about cameo fighters being a great way to test the waters, because Chameleon's a great example of someone who may not be received the best upon full rework. Mavado is proving the point about the 3D era characters I discussed earlier by testing the waters with him. Tremor was insanely well received in MKX, and I really wish he was main roster. And Farah is noticeably by herself. Will she have Tor? I'm not sure, but if she's solo, that could be fun to watch and see how her moves would change as a soloist, again, without risking a full roster spot. Also, it should be noted that Johnny Cage has a Jean-Claude Van Damme skin that's coming out for him with the DLC pack, which has my interest peaked. So these characters are going to be able to have full skins if these leaks are true, which they were back when MK11's DLC got leaked initially, which is interesting. Does that mean there's going to be full customizable crypt options for them as well? Again, most of this is just speculation, but I'm really curious to see how this system's going to work. I'm curious to see how the reception of this is going to be, considering how things are shaping up with the game so far, and I'm extremely intrigued with the DLC roster that we're getting. But overall, I do think the guest characters should have either been split or should have been cameo fighters. But with that, I'm going to leave this conversation here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys like guest characters being main roster? fighter and MK fighters being cameo, or would you rather it be flipped similar to what I was saying? Are you excited about any of the characters? What's your take on Johnny Cage being a cameo fighter and not main roster? Let me know all of that in the comments, and with that, I have to go finish MK vs. DC Part 2, and that video is shaping up to be around 35 minutes right now. Bye, sis!